Thank you so much, and very good afternoon. House full of people who impact the economy. Any decision you take impacts our GDP. Any decision you take changes the way shares move. So, absolute pleasure to be in a room full of such people. Icertis, for the last 15 years, there's only one thing we do, which is help customers focus on contract management, whether it is buy side as you would do in this context, or sell side as your sales teams would do with their customers. Both side contracts are managed by Icertis. But before we jump into technology, maybe something interesting. Again, as an individual, I love game of chess. So before you clear your mind and listen to my technical talk, whenever we think of chess, I think the first thing that comes to our mind is for Indians, Vishwanathan Anand, somebody who won 5 world championships, 2000, 2007, 8, 10, and 12. But what's interesting to note that the fastest game that he won it within 29 moves, and that was against Vladimir. Recently, all of you would have heard Gukesh, 18-year-old gentleman. He won it recently, a very young and talented player. He won this against Ding, and he won it in 68 moves. Yeah, brilliant at his game of chess. 2021, a chess match between Magnus, who won that, by the way, and Ian, lasted for 7 hours and 136 moves. Now, I cannot imagine sitting in a room like this for 7 hours to play a game of chess of 136 moves. I think that's amazing, you know. It talks a lot about their ability to play such a game. But interestingly, Women's World Championship finished in 6 moves. Why? Because Lee, who won that game, capitalized on a small mistake that Tan did. No mistake goes unpunished. 6 moves and she won the World Championship. Very, very interesting. But all these are humans. Garry Kasparov lost a match to AI in 1997. Any guesses how many moves? Anybody who comes close gets a prize. Sorry? Who was that? 10 moves, okay. 10, any other number? 13? 5, 8, 3. Sorry, it was 19 moves. I think this gentleman here won the prize. Just raise your hand and give me your name. Danveer, if you could give him a handover. Yeah, so 19 moves and AI won the game. Now, what's also interesting is in 2017, there was a piece of software called AlphaZero, which played chess against another piece of software called Stockfish. 100 games were played. AlphaZero won 28, 72 draws, and 0 losses. So Stockfish, as an AI program, was claimed to be extremely aggressive and intuitive as a chess player. And now from that, let's come to 2025. 2025, AI games that have chess in it run on 2 technologies. One is deep neural network, which I'm sure very few in this room would care to know what it is about. 2, it's called Monte Carlo tree search. Again, something that none of you would really care to know about. But just understand that in the new technology, the deep neural networks predict the next move based on the current position of the pieces. And Monte Carlo tree search simulates some fantastic games that have played in the past and says, okay, if he moves this step, what are the possible chances of winning and what will happen? If he moves some other step, what happens? And after simulations, many such simulations, it picks the best move. What is the chance that you and I have against AI like this? Very little, yeah? And the reason I thought talking about chess is so crucial in a room full of people who impact procurement and supply chain is because it's our game of chess, and we play it every day. You play it with the vendor, the sales guys play it with the procurement guys, finance plays with manufacturing, manufacturing plays with warehousing, so on and so forth. But in this context, as a set of procurement professionals who are playing chess, the number of moves you make to close that deal because your business needs it fast, because the business needs it at a certain efficiency, because the business needs it at a certain time and quality, is amazing. So all of you, believe it or not, are chess players. And in 2025, again, your priorities could be slightly different. Maybe one of these is your priorities also. But we speak to procurement professionals quite often, and these are the top 3 that they give us. The first one is supply chain resilience and risk management. Given the ups and downs that are happening, the wars that are happening, the tariffs that suddenly keep coming and going, the border challenges that suddenly change the whole dimension, the way budgets are being done and investment areas are being defined by finance ministers and states are taking directions. So there are so many things that impact us. Ensuring ESG and regulatory compliance is also a very big area. Many of you would have seen that now there's a chief risk officer in your organization, and more often than not, he's going either from the procurement team and taking that role, or it is from the legal team who's going and taking that role. Yeah? Because you understand risk and you've been facing risk as a domain for a very long time. Yes, there are always finance guys who will help you quantify that, but real-time risk is something you are able to appreciate, understand, and predict, or at least know how to handle it. Second priority that many procurement professionals tell us is cost optimization and digital procurement transformation. Optimization as a word always is used and misused, but in this area, driving cost efficiencies, making sure that you adopt newer technologies, whether it is SAP, Microsoft, Oracle, Ariba, Konga, iValua, or some of those consulting firms, or in some cases, Icertis as a contract lifecycle solution. Every company today is trying its best to take a digital journey to handle these crazy times. Third, ESG. Of course, I'm sure it's on everybody's to-do list. Sustainability is not just a topic of discussion, but it is a must-have requirement. Many of you define your procurement strategies based on this. Many of your vendors are expected to meet the criteria that you define. So let's just delve into these 3. And again, as I said, if your priority is any different, I'm there outside during the and post the lunch area. We'll discuss your priority and how Icertis can help. But if these 3 were my key priorities, from a risk standpoint, first, enhancing risk mitigation. How does Icertis and the AI co-pilots or AI tools and analytics that is there in the solution, how does it help you? We help you analyze contracts. It could be a contract which a German vendor has sent to you, obviously in English, but it's a 500-page contract and you have no idea what risks sit in it. Are you going to read all 500 pages? Is that what you have to do before you go for a meeting with the vendor? Or can you just upload and the system tells you, hey, here are the 20 points which you need to talk about because these are not what your company typically considers as approved. Here are 3 that are absolute risks to your organization. So let AI give you the recommendation. And yes, there is still a man in the middle between the AI information and the decision. And you are that man in the middle. But your ability to enhance risk mitigation strategies based on AI tools from Icertis is extraordinary. It allows procurement officers to proactively address vulnerabilities when you speak to these vendors. Supplier performance monitoring. There is a lot of risk involved in that. I mean, we all know during COVID, we had to put act of God. We had to put the whole clause related to contract termination, which wasn't there in the past. There are a lot of things that you did in the last 5 years that you haven't in the last 20 years. So supplier performance monitoring using AI algorithms within Icertis will help you measure, monitor, and take right corrective actions when it comes to supplier risk and performance. Third, speed to change. There's a sudden tariff that is applied in the US. There's a certain, if you're an IT company, now there's a new H-1B visa challenge that's going on. So when you have a sudden change in policy from any country that you do business with or in, Nowadays, I hear that you have to do insourcing in countries to reduce tariffs. Yeah, that's another challenge that has come to you. So handling these risks and your ability to do a quick, we call it searchability. Searchability means your ability to search how many contracts in my system currently with an X country do I have active? And if this is the list, which of these contracts have a certain clause? Your ability to chat with a contract to get these answers and do a quick Control H, add a new clause, send it to all the vendors for digital signatures. In a jiffy, you can do that. Typically, you would be aware the process you use is one master document which gets signed between you and the vendor, and then going forward, you keep doing new edits. But that's the old way. That's the Gary Kasparov way. Now you need the 2025 way of doing things, because now you are setting a platform for the future, completely different from the way you would have looked at this same situation 10 years back. Second, optimization. Again, optimization is always looked at as cost reduction. Optimization means, as the previous speaker said, maybe you give 10% extra, but the overall impact is a 5% reduction or a 10% improvement in efficiency. So optimization requires you to influence not just your own team and your own domain. It requires you to work closely with other divisions. So when Icertis gets deployed, and by the way, every dollar that is spent by your company through you, or every dollar that is taken by your company from a customer, both sides, it's only a contract. The reason why Icertis has become so high on the watch list of so many investors is because every dollar that goes into a company or out of the company goes because there is a contract in place. And a mistake in that contract, you have to pay a heavy penalty on either sides, buy or sell. Coming back to optimization. So when I talk of cost optimization and digital transformation, first, the whole process of how do you author a contract, a quick way, a fast way, an efficient way, a compliant way of authoring a contract, going through the internal process of digital signatures, making sure that the redlining, markup, all that is done properly with legal, the division which is requested for the procurement, your team who's working on that category or that service, making sure everybody is on board. And then once the contract is signed, then you track whether the contract is performing as it was supposed to. Many of you would have seen that you've hard negotiated with a vendor on maybe something like a discount, an overall discount. That a vendor is doing business with 3 of the companies in your group, and you've taken a discount for an overall volume of procurement. The 3 purchase guys sitting in those 3 companies have no idea you've signed a contract like this. They keep buying the way they do, and nobody bothers about that extra discount which you had negotiated for. Yeah, volume discount. So making sure that whatever you have pushed the vendor to do for you gets monitored, measured, and reported on. It helps you improve negotiation. Optimization is all about winning with the right kind of information and using it when the time comes. So your ability to leverage artificial intelligence to identify pricing trends, or your ability to look at contract benchmarks. So typically, for example, sales guys are trying their best to get you to sign the new contract with all the terms and conditions which you last time rejected. If you try that with Icertis, it will tell you that, hey, this vendor had accepted these terms and conditions which you laid down 5 years back. Why is he saying no this time? So your ability to reference back old contracts, or maybe a German vendor said yes, but a French vendor is saying no. Your ability to tell the French vendor that, hey, I have already got a signed contract with X company and they had accepted this clause. Why are you saying it's not a Europe-specific thing? Your ability to negotiate becomes better, and Icertis throws such information to you proactively while you are negotiating with the vendor, ensuring better terms with the suppliers. It's a no-brainer that unless you have a centralized contract repository, you cannot learn from it and you cannot keep improving year on year. So a central repository of contracts, and they could be services contracts, product contracts, productive, non-productive, rental contracts, retail contracts, distributor contracts, all contracts being kept centrally. And remember, when it's Icertis, we don't store that as document management PDF. We break that contract into small pieces, convert that into data. And it's not just the contract, but the emails associated with it, the drawings associated with it, the discussions associated with it, the Teams meetings associated with it, all that get clubbed and automatically stored in Icertis, so that, God forbid, if there is a legal case, your lawyers know that here is a contract, and the third line actually means what is written in the mail. Because many a times it's about interpretation, right? What's written in the contract. If you have reference emails, it's easy to correlate. Yeah? Centralized repository. Last but not the least, your ability to track how the contract is performing. Over the years, over the period of the contract, when do you renew? All the reminders coming in proactively. So optimization becomes very, very easy when you have a solution like Icertis in place. And last, or the third point, ESG and sustainability. While you're negotiating with vendors, you define certain clauses, you define certain terms and conditions that the vendor is supposed to meet. So make sure that those are tracked effectively from Icertis perspective. And we integrate with different systems. We integrate with SAP, Oracle, Salesforce, a project management system, whatever. So your actual execution of the contract is happening in different systems, but our ability to track that, a certificate that he has issued in some email, we can track that and say that yes, clause number 7 met. Or if you were supposed to give a drawing to the customer by the 3rd of March so that he could send you the first sample by the 3rd of April and you didn't submit that and he is delayed, you've got a penalty clause there. But your commitment to the vendor wasn't met. Hence, your entitlement from the vendor took a beating. Your ability to track all of this becomes very, very easy using Icertis. Typically, the contract governance team has one Excel. Some of you would be doing it or your teams would be doing it. You don't have to do that anymore because it's tracked as a to-do list, it's tracked as data. So what Icertis is good at is 3 things. An intelligent repository that helps you improve time and again and over the years. Second, a contract operations so that your process efficiency goes up. And third, business outcome realization through what we call obligation management. These are the 3 most important things that we do. And if I was to really go one level deeper and tell you what the product does, then the first piece is contract insights. For example, I upload a 700-page contract. The Discover AI Copilot reads that whole contract and tells you what are good, bad, ugly, and it helps you negotiate better. The second piece is somebody requesting for a contract and then you drafting it and the legal team giving their inputs and then redlining markup goes to the vendor, he puts his signature, he makes a red line, that whole flow till you actually get it signed and send it for execution. And then the third piece, which is tracking of obligations. All 3 end-to-end, right up to renewals or in some cases archival, the whole thing gets covered within Icertis. We do this for 400 plus customers worldwide, and you have the biggest of names in the Fortune 500 who run Icertis. We are a $300 million plus profitable company, so you don't have to worry whether this company will exist tomorrow or no. We have some of the best partners, Deloitte, PwC, KPMG, Accenture, Wipro, CloudMoyo. We have our own consulting firm. We recently signed up Infosys. So a lot of partners who have hundreds and hundreds of consultants sitting in India and abroad who implement Icertis. We've won several awards. Gartner puts us in the top quadrant. We've been there for the last 8+ years. Nobody comes close. We've won several awards for Icertis from Microsoft and SAP, both because we integrate well into their domains. Icertis on its own is important, but this product as a contract management solution has to integrate with your procurement system in either Ariba or a Conga or an iValua or some system where you're doing the whole procure to pay. It has to integrate because from there the trigger to create a contract, and that's where the contract gets closed. So we integrate that. Not just SAP and Microsoft and Dynamics and all of that. We have integrations with digital signatures. In India, you need eMudra. There are many of those digital signature applications that we integrate with out of the box. And of course, as I said, a wide range of partners. So integrations not only with different softwares, but also the ability to deploy it with different large partners. And these are the customers that we have. Again, not the whole list, but if it's technology, then Microsoft, Apple, Google, SAP, they all run Icertis wall-to-wall. If it's healthcare, we've got Johnson & Johnson. If it's retail, we've got Best Buy, Costco. If it's consulting, I told you the names. Manufacturing, we've got BASF, Boeing. There are so many of them who run us. Automotive, Daimler, a big example. Volkswagen, they were there in our office last week. Harley Davidson. In India, we've got Hero. I was on stage about 15, 20 days back for our sales kickoff, and I was telling my Icertis guys that by the time I finish a sentence in a minute, Hero, who runs Icertis, actually sells 59 motorcycles, whereas the Harley which you see there, they sell just one. That's the power of India that I was telling my colleagues worldwide, you know. Or for example, one of the Air India who runs Icertis, they handle about 15 million travelers in a week. That's almost the size of Chicago, you know. So the volume of business that some of my Indian customers do, some who are there on this board and some who are not, is extraordinary. And we help them do that, and we are really proud of that. Just one customer video as an example.
The problem with Daimler is that the current procurement system is roughly 25 years old, has reached the end of its life cycle, and no longer fulfills today's requirements.
And this made us slow and inefficient. And it was hard to us to identify all the risks and obligations out of contracts.
We wanted to solve with our sourcing application is to better collaborate with our 500,000 suppliers in the awarding process.
In an ideal state, we wanted sourcing and contracting to go hand in hand. Because in procurement, you start with sourcing, but immediately you also start your first contracts. And when this is joined in one powerful tool, you have everything transparent.
Daimler selected Icertis because it's the best-in-class contracting application. As we have seen that contracting and awarding has to come together.
We choose Icertis because we were looking for a platform that seamlessly integrates with our IT landscape and also fulfills our strategic IT requirements.
Daimler chose Icertis because it is a standard software. It is easy to integrate in our legacy system landscape and also to third-party systems. The implementation process really surprises me. They ramped up the system to an operational mode within 4 months. I have never seen this in Daimler before, that it can be that fast.
The implementation of ICM at Daimler was incredibly fast. After just 4 months, we had the first product live.
At the end of the day, we would like to get full advantage out of digitalization in procurement. For example, in bringing down contracting cycle time from 6 to 1 week.
The big benefits we're getting out of this solution together with Icertis is that we have an integrated solution for sourcing and contracting, more efficient process and a lot better regulatory compliance.
From sourcing to contracting, we have gained speed, but it has also made us safer. We have our risks transparent, we have our process transparent, and our buyers like the software. It's easy to use. The software guides the buyer through the process, so the user always knows what to do next.
I love to work with the Icertis team because I have never seen a company that has this passion and this motivation that you can see in every colleague that I have met before.
So that was Daimler, and before I close, might be worth taking a glimpse of the actual product. So just a 2-minute video on the product. I'm sorry I'm late, I know that. But just a glimpse of the solution so that you know what you're dealing with. And then you can call us later for in-depth discussion.
Paced business environment. obligations, categorize them, and convert them into tasks with just one click, streamlining the process. Experience autonomous fulfillment with seamless API integrations. The app can pull data from third-party systems, ensuring all obligations are met without manual intervention. Amy and her organization can now achieve better outcomes with a comprehensive compliance dashboard that tracks agreements, obligations, fulfillments, KPIs, penalties, and more. The dashboard provides an overview of obligations and fulfillments by type, allowing for detailed analysis. Insights into agreements by category help understand the distribution of obligations across contracts. Amy can also ensure adherence with features for tracking obligations, viewing SLAs, and monitoring compliance percentages. Additionally, a calendar view highlights due dates, and a fulfillment timeline helps maintain compliance and manage agreement scope effectively. Amy's user experience can be tailored, with configurable response structures including key parties, contract summaries, and obligations. Our Maker Checker system ensures accuracy and compliance, with work assigned to a fulfillment owner who oversees the approval cycle and tracks outcomes. Ready to transform your enterprise obligation management processes like Amy? Contact us today to take the next step in effective obligation management.
So that was just one small piece of the whole product which I showcased. The last part actually, what happens once the contract is signed. But again, the idea was to give you a glimpse of what the product does. There's a lot that we can discuss and come to conclusion on as to what really fits your requirements. Happy to do that today or later as you feel fit. But that's Neeraj Athalye for you. Thank you so much for your time and appreciate you listening to us.
Neeraj, thank you for the beautiful presentation. I have two questions actually. The first one is, suppose you have told we have a contract of 700 pages and Icertis software will go through it and list out what are the main points and compare it with our own perspective. But suppose what is written in the contract, that is very clear, but you are not very clear about our perspective because our teams are changing continuously. Our perspective 5 years back, 2 years back, and now we ourselves don't know how Icertis help us to chalk out or benchmark the baseline perspective of ours. That is my first question. And the second question is, suppose we do a contracting, it is already done. It is going on for 1 or 2 months. And after that, after 5 years, if I want to see in a single page of story, what is the success, what is the failure, it is like an executive summary. How Icertis help us to do that?
Correct. The first part of the question has got two parts to it. One is, once we deploy Icertis in your environment, the first step is we migrate your active contracts into the system and even your heritage contracts into the system. So when we are doing that, that helps us build the clause libraries, terms and conditions, etc., etc., etc. So the first thing that the system does without any masks is looking at your historical contracts and the active contracts. It builds a judgment as to what is roughly acceptable in your environment. So that's step one. Step two is our consultants, whether it is PwC, Deloitte, Accenture, Infosys, Wipro, or our own teams. We help and we work with your contracting team to come up with what is called a golden contract. So there are, in the best of implementations, I have seen 20 contract types, and in each type, there are roughly 8 to 9 subtypes. So these templates are what we create. Creation of the template is a business consulting activity. Icertis is not so much implemented by techies, but actually implemented by paralegals who are also techies. So it's a different breed of people who work with you to build the golden best. That's step one. Step two is then it compares with a 700-page contract with your golden contract of sorts and tells you the differences, etc., etc. So that was the first part of your answer. Second part, once a contract is digitally signed and treated as active, it starts tracking every obligation, every goods receipt, every service entry, every certificate delivered, every ESG compliance norm followed, or a mail that was sent saying, yes, I have done this on so-and-so date. So it tracks all of those. Even if there are penalties, it triggers the penalties from Icertis into your Oracle financials or your SAP financials or your Microsoft Dynamics or whatever. So it keeps track of all the events that have occurred from the date of signing till the renewal or whatever point in time that you have. And all those are very easily summarized for a report for you. So when you take a look at a contract, you can take a contract summary report and it tells you the entire log in a more human-friendly, readable way, categorized as executive summary and then the rest of the work. So a very, very good and easy way to look at how a contract has performed and use that information in your internal discussions, meetings, decision makings, etc.